A final order of removal against the alien has taken place. That means a court has said this guy needs to go. This machete-wielding, cop-choking, corrections officer assaulting guy needs to go. In fact, we have the back and forth from Tompkins County and ICE on January 28th of this year, 8:56 p.m. Tompkins County tells ICE, we're not going to hold this guy. 7 minutes later, ICE responds back, we will be there to take custody this evening. 24 minutes later, Thompson County reiterates, we're not going to have him. We're not going to turn him over. 10:45. ICE arrives at the jail. 1 hour and 18 minutes later, and guess what? Mr. Hernandez is not there.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to America First, the channel that puts American citizens and American values above everything else. If you're new here, make sure you hit that like button right now and subscribe because we're bringing you the truth that the mainstream media won't tell you. And if you want to support real patriotic content, head over to patreon.com/AmericaFirst where you can support this channel for as low as $5 a month. Your support keeps us independent and keeps us fighting for America. Today, I want to talk about something that's going to make your blood boil. I just watched this congressional hearing where Congressman Jim Jordan absolutely destroyed a governor over sanctuary city policies, and what I witnessed was everything that's wrong with the liberal agenda in this country. We're talking about a case that perfectly illustrates why sanctuary cities are a threat to every law-abiding American citizen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Governor Hochul, third paragraph, second sentence in your written testimony, you said New York State cooperates with U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement in criminal cases. Governor, who's Jesus Romero Hernandez?
Thank you. I want to reaffirm that we do cooperate in cases where...
That wasn't the question. I just read your statement. I can read your statement. Who is Jesus Romero Hernandez?
I don't have the details on every single
tell you.
person in a state of 20 million people.
I understand, but this guy's a citizen of Mexico, deported 7 times, came to your state, assaulted one of your residents with a machete, choked a police officer, then when he was in custody, assaulted a corrections officer. ICE finds out this guy is in your state's custody, and they send you a detainer. You're familiar with a detainer, right?
Yes, I am.
Notice of action, immigration detainer to Tompkins County Jail from Syracuse Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. Section 1, they check a couple boxes. The first one they check is a final order of removal against the alien has taken place. That means a court has said this guy needs to go. This machete-wielding, cop-choking, corrections officer assaulting guy needs to go. Then they also check another box and they say biometric confirmation of who this individual is, this alien's identity. So they got the right guy, and a court has said he needs to go. Any idea what Tompkins County Jail decided to do with that detainer order?
I will tell you this, the state of...
It's a specific question.
No, I'm
what
telling
did Tompkins County do?
the descriptions you have put forth are absolutely chilling and disturbing and reprehensible to all of us. My job is to protect the people of New York.
Which is why I'm asking the question. What did Tompkins County do?
What I have responsibility
I will
for
tell you, since you're not going to
state
answer,
courts,
we
state
cannot
police.
and will not hold Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah.
We can't keep the machete guy who had choked a police officer and assaulted a corrections officer. We can't keep him. In fact, we have the back and forth from Tompkins County and ICE on January 28th of this year, 8:56 p.m. Tompkins County tells ICE, we're not going to hold this guy. 7 minutes later, ICE responds back, we will be there to take custody this evening. 24 minutes later, Thompson County reiterates, we're not going to have him. We're not going to turn him over. 10:45. ICE arrives at the jail. 1 hour and 18 minutes later, and guess what? Mr. Hernandez is not there. They couldn't wait 1 hour and 18 minutes for a guy who assaulted one of your residents with a machete, choked a police officer, and then when in custody, assaulted corrections officers. That is sanctuary policy in a nutshell, and that is what your state supports, and so do these other governors. That is what is so wrong, why the American people hate this concept.
You're conflating what the state of New York does is I control state police and prisons. We have turned over 1,300 people.
So you disagree with it?
We turn over 1,300
Did the sheriff make the
people.
wrong call?
Those are local policies that we would not have done in the state of New York. State of New York, that is a local
So you're saying the
decision.
sheriff's wrong?
I would say this, if it happened in a state prison, we have already turned over 1,300 people.
Sheriff in Tompkins County, a Democrat or Republican, Governor?
There have been times, excuse me.
The sheriff in Tompkins County, a Democrat or Republican?
Excuse me. There have been times.
I ask the questions, you give the answers.
I'm asking
Is he a Democrat or Republican?
For a second,
you know?
I'm asking for this moment to explain that I'm sometimes waiting for ICE to come pick up people. Is he a Democrat or Republican, and do you agree with the actions he took? He's a Democrat. Do you agree with the actions he took? How about that question? They are in conflict with what the state of New York would do.
Well, maybe they're scared. By the way, he is a Democrat sheriff. Maybe the county guys are a little scared because you said this. I'm quoting from, it looks like the New York Times. We all know you can trust them. This is last month, May 25th. You said we have some counties that are renegade counties and work with ICE. Maybe they're nervous of being called a renegade county by their governor. So the Democrat sheriff says, we're not going to keep the machete-wielding, cop-choking, corrections officer assaulting guy. We're not going to keep him here for you to get here. We can't even wait an hour and 18 minutes. Oh, you know what else was interesting in this case? You know what else was interesting? There was actually an arrest warrant from United States District Court, Northern District of New York, signed by Judge Wiley Danks, magistrate from Syracuse. There was an arrest warrant, and they still couldn't keep him.
The state of New York cooperates. We cooperate in removal of individuals who've served time. We respond to detention. You're confusing, and maybe there's a lesson in civics here that's necessary.
On the record right here, I got 12 seconds. Will you say on the record, was Tompkins County wrong in the actions they took on January 25th, 2025, when they wouldn't hold the guy for 1 hour and 18 minutes?
Those are not the policies that we would have in the state of New York. Those are not the policies we would have in a
Were they wrong? Should they have turned that guy over to ICE? It's a simple question, Governor.
That was a horrible situation. The person should not have been out there.
It's a horrible situation, but it's a yes or no question.
It is a response that this is a locality.
Do you agree or disagree?
In the state of New York, the person should have been held.
Yes or no?
The person should have been held, and in the state of New York, we would have turned him over. That is in conflict with what we would do as a state with respect to prison. And I want to know why ICE won't come and pick up the individuals who have served time in our state. I have cases where they have not even shown
up. Governor, a court order and a detainer for a guy who did the things Mr. Hernandez did, and Tompkins County can't hold him an hour and 18 minutes, and you won't say that's wrong?
I have said we cooperate when there's a criminal case where someone has committed a crime. We turn them over.
This is sanctuary policy in a nutshell. You won't even condemn something that anyone with common sense knows is ridiculous.
You're mischaracterizing the
laws of the state I had the facts here. Oh, can I do one other thing, Mr. Chairman? Now he's been rearrested, and guess what? This guy who's now been rearrested, there is imminent danger that this inmate will do injury to himself and to others and presents a threat to safety, security, and good order of the facility, so he's not permitted to leave his cell. So this guy is not even allowed out of his cell, but they let him out on the street a few months ago. That's how ridiculous this is.
When he does leave his cell, it'll go back to his country under our orders of deportation.
Chair recognized.
Let me break down what happened here because this is infuriating. We have a man named Jesus Romero Hernandez, a Mexican citizen who has been deported from our country 7 times. 7 times, folks. Think about that for a second. This man has violated our immigration laws 7 times, and he keeps coming back. But it gets worse, much worse. This individual didn't just sneak across the border to pick strawberries or do jobs Americans supposedly won't do, as the left likes to claim. No, this man assaulted an American citizen with a machete. Let that sink in. A machete attack on an American citizen. Then he choked a police officer who was trying to do his job and protect the community. And when he was finally in custody, he assaulted a corrections officer. This is the type of individual that sanctuary city policies are protecting. Now, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, did their job. They identified this dangerous criminal and sent what's called a detainer to Tompkins County Jail. This detainer clearly stated that a federal court had issued a final order of removal against this individual. In plain English, that means a judge looked at this case and said this man needs to be removed from our country immediately. They also had biometric confirmation, meaning they had the right person with absolute certainty. But here's where it gets absolutely outrageous. Tompkins County Jail, despite having a violent criminal in their custody, despite having a federal court order, despite knowing this man had been deported 7 times and committed violent crimes against Americans, decided they would not hold him for ICE. They made a conscious decision to protect this criminal over protecting American citizens. The timeline of events is particularly infuriating. At 8:56 p.m. on January 28, 2025, Tompkins County told ICE they would not hold Hernandez. Just 7 minutes later, ICE responded that they would be there that evening to take custody. 24 minutes after the initial refusal, the county reiterated that they would not turn him over. ICE arrived at the jail at 10:45 p.m., just 1 hour and 18 minutes after being notified, and guess what they found? Nothing. This dangerous criminal was already gone. Think about this for a moment. We're talking about 1 hour and 18 minutes. That's less time than it takes to watch a movie. This county jail couldn't be bothered to hold a machete-wielding, cop-choking, repeat immigration violator for 1 hour and 18 minutes so that federal agents could remove him from our country. This is sanctuary policy in action, and it's exactly why the American people are fed up with these radical left policies. But it gets even more ridiculous. There was actually an active arrest warrant from a United States District Court Northern District of New York signed by a federal magistrate judge. So we had not just an IC detainer, but an actual federal arrest warrant, and they still refused to cooperate. This wasn't just non-cooperation with immigration enforcement, this was obstruction of justice at the federal level. During this hearing, we watched Congressman Jordan try to get the governor to condemn these actions, and what we saw was typical liberal double talk and deflection. The governor kept trying to distinguish between state and local policies, claiming that New York State cooperates with ICE while local jurisdictions make their own decisions. But here's the problem with that argument. When you create a political climate that demonizes cooperation with federal immigration enforcement, when you call counties that work with ICE renegade counties, you're creating the environment that leads to these dangerous decisions. The governor mentioned that they've turned over 1,300 people to IC, try to make it sound like they're being cooperative. But that's not the point. The point is that when it really matters, when you have a dangerous, violent criminal who poses an immediate threat to public safety, the system failed. One dangerous criminal released back onto the streets can cause immeasurable harm to innocent Americans. And we found out during this hearing that the sheriff in Tompkins County is a Democrat. Is anyone surprised? This is what happens when political ideology takes precedence over public safety. This sheriff made a political decision to prioritize the protection of an illegal alien over the safety of American citizens. That's not just wrong, it's morally reprehensible. The most disturbing part of this entire story is what happened after Hernandez was released. He was rearrested, and now he's considered so dangerous that he's not even allowed to leave his cell. The jail system has determined that there's imminent danger that this individual will harm himself and others, and that he presents a threat to the safety, security, and good order of the facility. So let me get this straight. This man is too dangerous to be allowed out of his cell in a maximum security environment, but just months ago, they let him walk free on American streets. This case perfectly illustrates the insanity of sanctuary city policies. These policies prioritize the protection of criminal aliens over the safety of American citizens. They create an environment where violent criminals know they can commit crimes against Americans and potentially avoid federal immigration consequences because local jurisdictions will protect them. But this isn't just about one case in New York. This is happening all across America in cities and counties controlled by liberal politicians who care more about virtue signaling than protecting their constituents. From California to New York, from Chicago to Portland, we see the same pattern. Dangerous criminals being protected by sanctuary policies while American citizens suffer the consequences. The American people understand this issue clearly, even if politicians pretend they don't. When you have someone who has been deported 7 times, who has committed violent crimes against Americans, who poses a clear and present danger to public safety, there should be no debate about what to do. You hold them for federal authorities, you facilitate their removal from our country, and you protect American citizens. It's that simple. But the radical left has turned immigration enforcement into a political weapon. They've convinced their base that any cooperation with ICE is somehow immoral, that enforcing immigration law is racist, that protecting American citizens from violent criminals is xenophobic. This is the kind of twisted logic that leads to situations like the Hernandez case. What's particularly galling is watching the governor try to have it both ways during this hearing. He wants credit for state-level cooperation with ICE while simultaneously refusing to condemn local policies that directly undermine that cooperation. He talks about protecting New Yorkers while defending a system that literally puts violent criminals back on New York streets. This is why we need leaders like Jim Jordan who are willing to ask the tough questions and demand accountability. Jordan didn't let the governor hide behind bureaucratic doublespeak. He laid out the facts clearly and demanded a simple answer. Was Tompkins County wrong to release this violent criminal? It shouldn't be a difficult question, but we watched a governor struggle to give a straight answer because doing so would require him to criticize the sanctuary city ideology that his political base supports. The broader implications of this case are staggering. If local jurisdictions can simply ignore federal immigration law, if they can refuse to cooperate with federal agents who are trying to remove dangerous criminals, then we don't really have immigration law at all. We have a system where criminal aliens can game the system, where they know certain jurisdictions will protect them from federal consequences. This isn't just about immigration, it's about the rule of law itself. When local governments can pick and choose which federal laws they'll acknowledge, when they can obstruct federal law enforcement agencies from doing their jobs, we're moving toward a breakdown of our constitutional system. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution makes federal law supreme over state and local law, but sanctuary jurisdictions are essentially declaring themselves above federal authority. And let's be clear about what sanctuary policies really accomplish. They don't make communities safer. They don't protect law-abiding immigrants. What they do is create safe havens for criminal aliens who prey on both American citizens and legal immigrants. They create an environment where the worst elements of illegal immigration are protected while everyone else suffers the consequences. The victims in cases like this are always forgotten in the political debate. We talk about policy and procedure, but there's a real American citizen who is attacked with a machete by someone who should never have been in our country in the first place. There's a police officer who was choked while trying to protect his community. There's a corrections officer who was assaulted while doing his job. These are real people who were harmed because our immigration system failed them. This is why the America First movement is so important. We put American citizens first, American workers first, American safety first. We don't apologize for wanting to protect our borders, enforce our laws, and prioritize the well-being of American citizens over the political preferences of criminal aliens. The solution to cases like this is straightforward but requires political will. We need to end sanctuary city policies once and for all. We need federal legislation that requires local cooperation with immigration enforcement or face loss of federal funding. We need to hold local officials accountable when their policies result in harm to American citizens. And we need to complete the border wall and implement the kind of comprehensive immigration enforcement that makes cases like Hernandez impossible. But more than anything, we need to change the political culture that makes sanctuary cities possible. We need to elect leaders at every level who understand that their first responsibility is to American citizens, not to criminal aliens. We need to reject the false choice between compassion and law enforcement. True compassion means protecting innocent people from violent criminals, regardless of where those criminals come from. The Hernandez case should be a wake-up call for every American. This is what happens when political correctness takes precedence over public safety. This is what happens when virtue signaling becomes more important than protecting your constituents. This is what happens when the radical left's immigration agenda is implemented in the real world. Every American needs to understand that sanctuary city policies make them less safe. Every American needs to understand that when we fail to enforce immigration law consistently, we create incentives for more illegal immigration and more criminal behavior. Every American needs to understand that there are political leaders who would rather protect criminal aliens than protect you and your family. The good news is that the American people are waking up to this reality. They see cases like Hernandez and they understand the stakes. They understand that this isn't about immigration status, it's about public safety. They understand that this isn't about compassion, it's about common sense. And they're demanding leaders who will put America first. This is why your support of channels like this one is so important. The mainstream media won't tell you these stories the way they really happened. They won't ask the tough questions or demand accountability from liberal politicians. They'll make excuses, change the subject, or ignore the story entirely. But we're here to give you the truth, to ask the questions that need to be asked, and to demand the accountability that American citizens deserve. So if you found this analysis valuable, if you want to see more content that puts America first, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. And if you really want to support the America First movement, head over to patreon.com/America First, where you can support independent patriotic content for as low as $5 a month. Your support makes all the difference in our ability to keep bringing you the truth. The fight for America's future is happening right now in cases like this, in hearings like this, in elections at every level of government. We can't afford to stay on the sidelines. We can't afford to let the radical left continue implementing policies that make Americans less safe. The time for action is now, and it starts with making sure every American understands what's really at stake. Thanks for watching America First, and remember, America First always.